My name is Maya Delacroix. I am 34 years old. I am an assistant district attorney for the state of Georgia, and I have spent the last 8 years of my career putting liars on the stand and watching them fall apart under the weight of their own words. I am very good at my job. And 13 years after my mother told me I would never be smart enough for college, 13 years after I believed her and grieved over it and rebuilt myself from nothing, I found her handwriting in a case file sitting on my own desk. She had written letters to every university I applied to. She told them I had a felony record. I didn't have a felony record. I didn't have so much as a parking ticket. She spent 13 years telling me I wasn't smart enough for college. She forgot I'd eventually be smart enough to find the paperwork. Before I tell you what happened next, and I promise you, what happened next is something I still think about every single day, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to this channel. But only if this story resonates with you. Only if you've ever been quietly underestimated by the person who was supposed to be in your corner the most. Drop your location and local time in the comments right now. I want to know where in the world you are as you're hearing this. And tell me, has someone in your life ever made a decision about your life without telling you? Just drop a fire if you know what that kind of quiet sabotage feels like. Now let me take you back to the beginning. My full name is Maya Elise Delacroix. I grew up in Decatur, Georgia, a suburb of Atlanta, in a 3-bedroom house on Winona Drive that always smelled like pine sol and collard greens. We weren't poor. We weren't rich. We were the kind of comfortable that taught you to be grateful and not ask too many questions. My mother's name is Denise Ann Delacroix, née Carter. She was 51 years old when all of this came to light. When I was growing up, she worked as an office administrator at a mid-size property management company. She was organized, precise, charming in a way that made people trust her instantly. She had beautiful handwriting. I always remembered that her handwriting was this elegant, slanted cursive, the kind they don't teach anymore. My father, Roland, was largely absent from the picture. He and my mother separated when I was 6. He moved to Jacksonville, Florida, sent birthday cards sometimes, and was physically present at roughly 30% of my childhood holidays. He was not a bad man. He was just someone who had made a different life and included me in it only when it was convenient. By the time I was 12, I had mostly stopped expecting him. That left me and my mother's favorite person in the world, which was not me. That was my cousin, Brianna. Brianna Carter was my mother's sister's daughter. She was 8 months older than me. She was pretty in the way that made adults smile wider when she walked into a room, light-skinned, long hair, easy laugh. She was not mean to me. I want to be clear about that. Brianna was not cruel. She didn't know what was happening any more than I did. But my mother loved Brianna the way some parents love their own children. Fiercely, unconditionally, with a kind of loud, visible pride that she never quite turned in my direction. Let me give you some examples. June 2003. I am 10 years old. I win the DeKalb County Elementary Math Olympiad. I come home with a trophy, a real one, gold-colored, taller than my forearm. My mother puts it on the mantle for exactly 1 week before she replaces it with a framed photo of Brianna at her dance recital. November 2005. 7th grade. I get a 98 on my Georgia Milestone science test, highest grade in my class. My teacher, Ms. Pettigrew, calls my mother to tell her personally. My mother says, "That's good, Maya." Then she tells me to finish the dishes. That same month, Brianna gets a B+ in her English class. My mother takes her to Olive Garden. I know how that sounds. I know grief over restaurant trips sounds small. But what I want you to understand is that it wasn't about the restaurant. It was about what the restaurant represented. It was proof. It was visible, undeniable evidence that Brianna's effort meant something to my mother in a way mine didn't. I responded the only way I knew how. I worked harder. By the time I was in 9th grade at Decatur High School, I had a 4 GPA that I guarded like a living thing. I was in AP History, AP English, AP Biology. I was editor of the school newspaper. I was on the debate team. I had a plan. I had always had a plan. I wanted to go into law. I had known this since I was 11 years old and watched a documentary about Thurgood Marshall. I wanted to be in a courtroom. I wanted to make arguments that mattered. My mother thought this was above my station. That's a direct quote, above my station, like I was applying to be a duchess. She didn't say it in a dramatic way. She said it the way she said most things, casually, matter-of-factly, the way you'd tell someone it's going to rain. Maya, you need to think practically. Law school is expensive. You're not exactly a star student. Have you thought about a 2-year program, medical coding, dental hygiene, something real? Something real. I had a 4 GPA. I had been accepted into the Beta Club. I had, without any help, completed my applications to 7 universities. University of Georgia, Georgia State, Emory, Howard University, Spelman College, the University of Tennessee, and Georgia Tech. Spelman was my dream. All-black women's college, one of the finest institutions in the country. I had written my personal essay about Thurgood Marshall and about my grandmother, my father's mother, Grandma June, who had picked cotton in Alabama as a child and died believing her grandchildren would change what that legacy meant. I was proud of that essay. I have never been prouder of anything I have written, before or since. I submitted all 7 applications in November of 2008. I was 17 years old, and then I waited. The rejections started coming in February. First Georgia Tech, then UT, then UGA, then Georgia State. I told myself this was normal. Not everyone gets in everywhere. Then Emory, then Howard, then Spelman. I remember opening that email. I remember the exact moment. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a bowl of cereal I wasn't eating. My mother was washing something at the sink with her back to me. I opened the email on my laptop, and I read the word, unfortunately. And I felt something happen in my chest that I can only describe as a sound, like something being unplugged. I didn't cry in front of her. I closed the laptop. I went to my room. I sat on the floor with my back against the bed for a long time. When I came out, my mother was watching television. She looked at my face and said, "Well, maybe this is God telling you to be realistic." I was 17 years old. And I believed her. For the longest time, I thought the rejections were just the world telling me what my mother had been suggesting all along, that I wasn't quite enough, that my 4 was a fluke or an overcount. That Spelman had looked at me and seen what my mother seemed to see, a girl reaching past her grasp. I enrolled in a community college program in the fall of 2009. DeKalb Technical College. I was miserable and I refused to show it. I studied paralegal studies because it was the closest I could get to the law with the options in front of me. I worked 20 hours a week at a Kroger on Memorial Drive to pay for my books. My mother did not contribute to my education financially. She said she didn't have it. I was 17. I didn't know enough to verify that. What I did not know, what I would not know for 13 years, was that between November 2008 and January 2009, my mother had contacted each of the 7 universities I applied to. Not by phone, by letter. By those elegant, slanted letters she wrote so beautifully. She represented herself, in each letter, as a concerned community member who had information relevant to the application under review. She stated, in writing, on paper she bought at Office Depot, that I had a juvenile criminal record that had been sealed. She implied that I had been involved in a theft incident at a local business in 2007. She strongly suggested that admitting me would create liability for the institution. There was no theft incident. There was no sealed record. There was no criminal history of any kind. I was the girl who cried when she accidentally hit a bird with the car. The letters were unsigned or signed with a false name, but the handwriting was hers. Now, why would she do this? I've had a lot of years and a lot of therapy to think about that question. I don't have a clean answer. What I have are pieces. I think she was afraid. I think she was afraid that if I left for a real university, if I got into Spelman, if I walked into that world and found out what I was capable of, I would leave her. And she would be alone. My father was gone. I was all she had in the house. I also think she had spent so many years diminishing me that she had started to believe her own story. That when the evidence said otherwise, she had to find another way to make the story true. I think she looked at those application materials, at my essays and my GPA and my extracurriculars, and felt something shift that scared her. And instead of confronting that fear, she picked up a pen. She controlled the thing she was afraid of losing by destroying the thing I was trying to build. And she watched me fail. She watched me grieve. She said, "Maybe this is God telling you to be realistic." She sat across from me at the dinner table for years afterward, and she said nothing. I'm going to tell you about the next several years honestly, because I think a lot of people sanitize this part. They skip to the success and give you the highlight reel. But the in-between is important. The in-between is where the real story lives. After my 2-year program at DeKalb Tech, I was a certified paralegal. I found a job at a small plaintiff's firm in downtown Atlanta, Reeves and Holloway, making $28,000 a year. I shared a 2-bedroom apartment with a girl named Deja who I'd met through a church connection. Deja was working at a call center. We split the $900 rent and ate a lot of pasta. I was good at my job. I knew I was good at my job. The attorneys at Reeves and Holloway started giving me more and more responsibility, drafting motions, organizing discovery, sitting in on depositions. I was doing work that required a law degree, and I was doing it without one, and I was making $28,000 a year. The attorneys were not unkind, but the ceiling was very clear. I was 22 years old, and I started to feel the first real tremors of anger. Not at the firm, at the math, at what my life would look like if I followed this path to its logical end. I enrolled in night classes at Georgia State University in 2013. Full-time work during the day, 2 classes per semester at night, studying on my lunch breaks and on weekends. I was not sleeping enough. I was not eating well enough. I went to the emergency room once with what I thought was a heart attack and turned out to be a panic attack, and I sat on a gurney in the Georgia State Medical Center at 2 a.m. alone, and I thought, if I stop now, she was right. I didn't stop. There was one person who made a significant difference during these years, and her name was Patricia Okonkwo. Patricia was a senior attorney at Reeves and Holloway, the only Black woman partner at the firm, and she had a way of seeing through people that I found equally terrifying and comforting. She noticed me. Not in a performative way, she didn't take me under her wing with speeches. She just started including me, copying me on emails, asking for my read on things. One afternoon in 2014, she called me into her office and closed the door. "You're applying to law school," she said. It was not a question. "I'm working on my undergrad," I said. "I'm about halfway." "I know where you are," she said. "I'm telling you that when you finish, you're applying to law school, and I'm writing you a letter of recommendation. So do not waste my time by not finishing." That was the entirety of the conversation. She opened the door, and I went back to my desk, and I sat there for about 4 minutes not doing anything before I pulled up my class schedule and registered for 2 additional summer courses. I graduated from Georgia State in May 2016 with a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice. Cum laude, 3.87 GPA. I stood at that graduation in a rented cap and gown that was slightly too big for me, and I thought about Grandma June, and I thought about that Spelman application essay, and I cried in a way I hadn't cried in a very long time. My mother did not attend the graduation. She said she had a prior commitment. I applied to Georgia State's law school that fall. Patricia's recommendation letter was 3 pages long. I got in. Here is who I am on the day this story reaches its turning point. I am 34 years old. I live in a 1-bedroom condo in Midtown Atlanta that I own. I have a 4-year-old rescue cat named Gertrude who is deeply suspicious of house guests and has no interest in reforming. I have a small group of close friends, Deja is still one of them, and a therapist named Dr. Amara Yusuf, who I see every other Tuesday. I am an assistant district attorney for Fulton County, Georgia, and my salary is $161,000 a year. Let me sit with that number for a second, because there was a time when $28,000 a year felt like ceiling and floor at once. $161,000 a year. I got the ADA position in 2021 after 2 years at a public defender's office where I learned things about the system I could not have learned anywhere else. My caseload at the DA's office runs across a range: fraud, assault, financial crimes. I am not famous. I have not been on the news. I am not that kind of prosecutor. I am the kind who reads every file. That matters, remember that. Patricia Okonkwo came to my swearing-in ceremony at the DA's office. She sat in the second row and did not cry, because Patricia does not cry at professional events, but afterward she squeezed both my hands and said, "Don't let them make you small." I think about that all the time. My relationship with my mother during this period was what I would describe as functional but guarded. We spoke on the phone once or twice a month. She was proud, she said, in that vague way that never quite names the thing it's proud of. She never asked about my work in any detail. She never came to Atlanta. I had stopped expecting her to. I had stopped, somewhere in my late 20s, actively grieving the mother I didn't have and started building a life with the one I did. It wasn't peace exactly. It was management. And it was enough. For a while, it was enough. On a Thursday in March 2022, I was assigned a case that, on its surface, had nothing to do with me. A man named Douglas Pratt, age 67, had been charged with financial elder abuse. He had allegedly defrauded several elderly residents of a Decatur area neighborhood out of a combined $214,000 through a fake home repair scheme, collecting deposits for work he never performed. The victims were all senior citizens. Some of them had saved for years to afford the repairs he promised. It was the kind of case I take personally. My paralegal, a young guy named Marcus Webb who had been with our office for about 8 months, was pulling together the victim files and background documentation. It was a Thursday afternoon, past 5 o'clock, and I was getting ready to leave. Marcus knocked on my office doorframe. "Hey, I've got the files on all 6 complainants," he said, "but I also found some prior contact that might be relevant. There's a letter from about 14 years ago where someone made a third-party complaint about Pratt to the Decatur Neighborhood Association. Might establish a pattern." "Put it in the file," I said. He put it on my desk. I finished gathering my things, came back to my desk to grab my keys, and I glanced at the top of the pile. And I stopped. The letter was handwritten. Now, in 13 years of legal work, I have seen a lot of documents. I have reviewed thousands of handwritten items, exhibit logs, notations, sworn statements. The human brain is good at pattern recognition, but it is not infallible. But there are some things that print themselves on you when you're young, some images that belong to your nervous system before they belong to your memory. The smell of a particular house, a particular song, a particular voice in the hallway at night, and some people's handwriting. I picked up the letter. It was dated September 14th, 2008. It was addressed to the Decatur Neighborhood Watch Association, reporting concerns about a resident named Douglas Pratt. And in the bottom right corner, in that elegant, slanted cursive I would know anywhere on earth, was my mother's name. Denise A. Delacroix. I sat down. I sat down because my legs did not feel trustworthy. My first thought, I want to be honest about this, my first thought was not about the universities. My first thought was, she knew this man. She lived near this man. They were neighbors. My second thought was, she has handwriting in a file on my desk. My third thought arrived slowly, the way the worst thoughts always do, like they're being careful with you. She wrote letters. She had beautiful handwriting. She wrote letters about people in the neighborhood. She wrote letters. I put the Pratt letter down. I stood up. I walked to the window of my office and looked at the parking deck across the street for a while. Then I sat back down, and I opened my laptop, and I started to look. I need to tell you what it is like to investigate something you don't want to find. Because there is a version of this story where I tell you I felt righteous from the very first moment, like a hunter, clear-eyed and certain. That would be a cleaner story. The truth is that I spent about 20 minutes at my laptop doing nothing productive. I typed my mother's name into our internal search system and then stared at the results without really processing them. I got up and got a cup of water. I came back. I looked at my phone and thought about calling Deja. I didn't call Deja. I sat down and I started working. I'm a prosecutor. I know how to trace a document. I know what to request, who to call, which archives hold what. I know that university admissions offices are not generally required to retain third-party correspondence indefinitely. But I also know that 7 universities received letters about me in late 2008 and early 2009, and some institutions keep things longer than others. I started with Spelman. I called the Spelman College Office of Admission the following morning, a Friday, and I explained carefully, professionally, that I was an attorney investigating a potential fraud matter, and that I had reason to believe fraudulent correspondence had been submitted in connection with a 2008 application under my name. I gave them my bar number and my office contact information, and asked whether they retained archival admissions correspondence from that period. The woman I spoke to was skeptical and polite. She said she would need to transfer me. I was on hold for 11 minutes. When she came back, she said they did have some archived records from that cycle, physical files that had been scanned but not destroyed. She asked for the applicant name and date of application. I gave her my name, my 17-year-old name, Maya Elise Delacroix, November 2008. She put me on hold again. 6 minutes this time. When she came back, her voice had changed. It was quieter, more careful. Ms. Delacroix, she said, I'm going to need you to speak with our general counsel. I spoke with their general counsel that afternoon. He confirmed that in January 2009, Spelman College received a letter written by hand, raising concerns about an applicant named Maya Elise Delacroix. The letter alleged that the applicant had a sealed juvenile criminal record related to a theft incident in DeKalb County, Georgia, in 2007. The letter was signed with a name I didn't recognize, a fake name. It turned out that didn't correspond to any verifiable person, but the letter included a return address. An address on Winona Drive in Decatur, Georgia. My childhood home. The general counsel read me the return address. I wrote it down on a legal pad, even though I already knew every digit of it. I wrote it down because I needed my hand to have something to do. We take allegations like this seriously, he told me. There is no notation in the file of any independent verification. We have no record of actually contacting DeKalb County to confirm or deny the claim. A pause. Ms. Delacroix, I want to be clear. This letter appears to have influenced the admissions decision. I'm deeply sorry. He was deeply sorry. I thanked him for his time. I hung up. I sat in my office for a while. Gertrude was at home. I thought about Gertrude. I thought about Grandma June. I thought about a woman sitting at an Office Depot in 2008, buying stationery to write 7 letters to 7 universities in her beautiful, slanted cursive. Then I picked up the phone and I called Howard University, and then UGA, and then Emory. Not all 7 schools had retained the letters. 3 of them had. 3 confirmed handwritten correspondence received in January or February of 2009. 3 different fake names, 3 different signatories, the same address on Winona Drive, the same allegation. By the time I finished the last call, it was almost 8 o'clock at night. I had been in my office for 14 hours. I drove home. I fed Gertrude. I poured a glass of water because I don't drink alcohol and I needed something to do with my hands. I sat on my couch and I let myself feel the size of it. This is hard to describe. When you've built a life on a story, even a painful story, even a story about your own limitations, and then you find out the story was wrong, there is a grief that has nothing to do with anger. It comes before the anger. It's the grief of realizing that the suffering was not necessary, that the years of self-doubt, the detours, the panic attack in the emergency room at 2 in the morning, none of it had to happen the way it happened. I grieved the 17-year-old who believed her mother. I let myself grieve her for exactly one night. The next morning, I was a prosecutor again. I called Patricia Okonkwo on a Saturday. It had been almost 2 weeks since I found the letter. I had spent those 2 weeks doing what any attorney does with a painful discovery. I documented everything before I let myself react. I had copies of 3 confirmed letters from universities. I had the return address. I had my mother's name on the Douglas Pratt neighborhood complaint as a handwriting comparison point, the same file that had started this entire thing. I am aware of the irony. My mother's own letter about her neighbor led me to the truth about what she did to me. I sat with Patricia at her kitchen table in Buckhead with coffee going cold between us, and I laid out everything I had. Patricia is not a woman who performs reactions. She listened. She read the documents. She asked 3 clarifying questions. Then she put everything down and looked at me. "How are you?" she said. "I'm angry," I said, "but I need to figure out what to do with it before I do anything." "What are your options?" "Confront her directly, or work through a mediator, or not confront her at all and pursue whatever civil remedies might exist." "What do you want?" "I want her to have to say it out loud." Patricia nodded slowly. "Then let's think about how you get that." I did not call my mother that day. I did not call her the next day. I spent 3 more weeks gathering everything I could, working with university counsel at 2 of the 3 schools that had retained the letters to understand what my legal position was, speaking to a civil attorney named Harris Webb about potential fraud claims, getting everything in order. On a Tuesday in April 2022, I drove to Decatur, to my mother's house on Winona Drive. I told her I was coming over for dinner. I said I wanted to talk. She made smothered chicken, which is my favorite meal, and I think about that sometimes, that she made my favorite meal for the night that her world came apart. I sat down at the table where I had eaten 10,000 breakfasts and cereal, and she set the plate in front of me and sat across from me, and I looked at her face. This face I had known all my life, this face that taught me what my own face was, and I said, "Mom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer me honestly." "Okay," she said. The way she said it made me think she expected this to be about money, or about the holidays, or about something manageable. I put the photocopy of the Spellman letter on the table. She looked at it, and in the first half second before she composed herself, I saw it. I am very good at reading faces. It is my job to read faces. I saw the recognition move through her like water moving through cracks in concrete, instant, inevitable. "Where did you get this?" Her voice was very quiet. "Mom." "Maya, where did you get this?" "It's your return address. And the handwriting expert I hired says it matches the handwriting comparison sample from your neighborhood watch letter, which I have in a separate file in my car." She put down her fork. "I have 3 of these," I said. "From 3 different universities, same address, same handwriting, same allegation, an allegation that was entirely false." She didn't deny it. I had not expected her to deny it, not to my face, not with the documents in front of her. My mother is not stupid. She raised me to understand evidence. "I want you to tell me why," I said. "I don't want to hear that you don't remember. I don't want to hear that it was complicated. I want you to tell me, sitting here, why you did this." The silence lasted a long time. When she spoke, she did not look at me. She looked at the table. "I was scared." She said, "I was scared you were going to leave and not come back. Your father left. My sister moved to Charlotte. And I looked at those applications and I just knew that if you got into Spellman, that was it. You were going to leave, and you were going to build something so big that there wouldn't be room for me in it. So you destroyed my applications." "I thought," she stopped. "I thought if you stayed closer, did the community college, we'd have more time together before." "Before what?" My voice was steady. I had cried already. I had done my crying over those 3 weeks. I had nothing left for this moment but clarity. "Mom, before what? Before I grew up? Before I became a person who existed outside of your fear?" She didn't have an answer. "I want you to understand something," I said. "I have a civil attorney. I have documentation from 3 universities and preliminary indications that I may have legal standing for fraud and intentional interference with educational opportunity. I am not here tonight to serve you papers. I am here because you are my mother, and you deserve to hear from me directly before any of this goes any further." She started crying. I watched her cry. I did not hug her. I did not move across the table. I want to be honest about that. In that moment, I didn't have it in me, and I don't think I should have been expected to. "I want you to call your sister," I said, "because Brianna deserves to know what happened too. And I want you to call your pastor or your therapist or whoever it is you talk to when you need someone to help you understand the size of what you've done. Because I can't be that person for you right now." I picked up my documents. I stood up. The smothered chicken sat between us, untouched. "I'm not closing the door," I said, "but I am the one who decides when it opens." And I walked out. Let me tell you what accountability looks like when it is real and not a TV movie. It is not one dramatic scene. It is not a confession in the rain. It is slow, grinding, deeply uncomfortable work that nobody wants to do, least of all the person who has to do it. But my mother, to her credit and to my genuine surprise, did the work. The first call came 3 days after I left her house. It was from my Aunt Claudette, my mother's sister, Brianna's mother. My mother had called her and told her everything, not a cleaned-up version, everything. Aunt Claudette did not call to defend my mother. She called to apologize on behalf of the family. She cried for about 4 minutes, which is a long time on a phone call. She said, "I had no idea, Maya. I swear to God I had no idea." I believe her. Brianna called the next day. Brianna and I have always had a complicated relationship, not because of any animosity between us, but because of what we represented to each other. She was the one who was loved loudly. I was the one who was not. That was never her fault. She called and she said, "I don't know how to apologize for something I didn't know was happening." "You don't have to," I said. "You didn't do it." "I know, but I still," she exhaled. "I knew she treated you differently. I knew it and I didn't say anything because I didn't know what to say and I was 17 and I'm sorry." That phone call mattered more to me than I expected it to. On the legal side, I did pursue a civil claim. Harris Webb, my civil attorney, filed suit in Fulton County Superior Court against my mother for fraud and intentional interference with educational opportunity. I was not doing this for money. I want to be clear about that. I was doing it because the truth needed to be in a record somewhere, because I needed the law, the institution I had given my life to name what she did. The case settled 8 months later for $340,000. My mother's homeowner's insurance covered a portion of it. She sold some retirement assets. It was not easy for her financially, and I will not pretend I felt nothing about that. But I also will not pretend the settlement was wrong. The $340,000 sits in an investment account. I have thought carefully about what to do with it. I have not touched it yet. My mother also, as part of the terms I insisted on, wrote letters, real letters this time, signed, accurate, to each of the 7 universities. She explained what she had done. She did not minimize it. 2 of the universities wrote back. One of them included a note of apology. She entered therapy. Her therapist's name is Dr. Carla Simmons, and I know this because my mother told me voluntarily without my asking. That also mattered. It's been 2 years since I drove to Decatur for that dinner. I want to tell you things are perfect now. I want to tell you there was a moment, a single, clear moment, where I forgave my mother and felt the weight lift, and we hugged and we moved forward. That would feel good. I understand why stories like this often end that way. Viewers want resolution. The human heart wants resolution. But that is not what rebuilding actually looks like. What it looks like is this. January 2023. My mother and I have our first phone call that isn't about logistics or legal matters in almost a year. It lasts 22 minutes. She asks about my work. I tell her about a fraud case in a general way. She says, "You were always good at seeing through things." There is an awkward pause because we both know what that sentence means in the context of us. Then she says, "I'm sorry, Maya." And I say, "I know." And we talk about something else. March 2023. I go to Decatur for her birthday. I bring a card. There are 6 other people there, Aunt Claudette, Brianna and her fiancé, a couple of my mother's friends from church. It is the most time I have spent in that house in years. I stand in the kitchen while my aunt makes potato salad, and I look at the mantel where my math trophy used to be, where the photo of Brianna is now gone, and where there is a framed photo of me at my law school graduation that my mother has put there. I don't say anything about the photo, but I see it. November 2023. My mother calls me on the night before Thanksgiving. Not on Thanksgiving, the night before. She says, "I know you probably have plans, I just wanted to call." And I can hear in her voice that she is trying to get it right, that she is trying to be the thing I needed, the thing I'm not sure she's capable of becoming, but trying nonetheless. "I have plans," I tell her, "but I'll call you tomorrow." "Okay," she says. "Okay." I did call her the next day. We talked for 37 minutes. Here is what I know about rebuilding. It is not dramatic. It does not have a score. No one is watching. It is just two people trying to build something out of what's left, with full knowledge of what was lost and no guarantee of what comes next. My mother is in therapy. She goes consistently, Dr. Simmons, every other week. She told me recently that they've been working on what she described as her fear of being left behind. Those are her words, not mine. I told Dr. Yusuf about that. Dr. Yusuf said, "How did that make you feel?" I said, "Like I can see her as a person, not just as my mother." That's progress. I think that's what progress looks like. I am not her therapist. I am not responsible for her healing. But I can be her daughter at a distance that keeps me whole while she does the work. It's not perfect. It is not the childhood I deserved, but it is real, and real is something. Here is what I want to leave you with. The truth doesn't expire. I know that better than almost anyone. The truth sat in an archived admissions file at Spelman College for 13 years. It sat there while I worked at Kroger and ate cafeteria pasta and had a panic attack at 2 in the morning and wondered whether my mother was right about me. It sat there while I finished my undergrad and passed the bar and argued cases in a courtroom and built a life. And then I found it. Because I became someone who knew how to look. If you are someone who was quietly sabotaged, not dramatically, not in a way anyone outside your family would believe, I want you to hear this. Your instincts were not wrong. The confusion you felt, the nagging sense that something didn't add up, the suspicion that maybe the world wasn't quite as closed to you as it seemed, you were right. You were right to feel that. You were not too sensitive. You were not making it up. You were just missing the paperwork. And here's the thing about people who are told they are not smart enough. We become very determined to prove otherwise. And sometimes, if we're lucky and stubborn and we find one Patricia Okonkwo along the way, we become so smart that we find the paperwork ourselves. If you are waiting for your family to see you, to acknowledge you, to apologize, to wake up and recognize who you actually are, stop waiting. See yourself first. Build the life first. The truth has a way of catching up. And if one day you find yourself sitting in your own office with your name on the door and an old document in your hands, remember, the person who wrote it didn't win. The person reading it did. What would you have done? If you found that file, if you found proof that someone you loved had been quietly working against you, would you have opened that door? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if this story hit you somewhere real, if you felt this in your chest, please share it. Because somewhere out there, there's a 17-year-old reading a rejection email and believing the wrong story. Let's change that. I'll see you in the next one.